Hi, Aparna. Thank you so much for joining in with us today. We have been talking a lot about how to prepare ourselves so that we can be ready to receive and to speak to the children. Now, towards that end, one aspect of it is the writing and the typing. But can you share what, in your experience, from speaking from your experience, how do you ready yourself to speak to the children or to receive information from them? So let's talk about that.
Hi Nandini, it's been a pleasure again to talk about communication because we've done quite a bit, and I think this is the best time for everybody to know about how much we've done. Like otherwise,
Yeah,
we're aware.
yeah,
So, coming to how I present the communication to everybody and how I start off with, uh, it generally took some time for me to settle down and then to reach the child and a child to again trust me and then to share everything. So initially when I come in, I just try not to think about anything. I just completely focus only about that day's events and then coming into Lotus. And it so happens that the children themselves, when they start coming to me, there's a sort of a bond and we sort of gel and it just flows. The conversation flows. But again, it took a lot of time. It didn't happen overnight. So now it's reached a comfortable position where, like, I just go sit there, they come, and then I would say it just flows. The conversation flows. And the day they are not ready, we just sit together and not talk about anything at all. So we give them that space and, that love and that time to be what they want to do. So that's how
right,
we work.
definitely. Aparna, there has been a very beautiful sharing by a couple of children through their mothers. One is Amrit, the other is Gokul, recently, about compassion. First, let me tell you about what Amrit has indicated. A few days ago, I understand when Amrit's mother had gone to drop him at school. I think Kalpana was there, and Amrit went up to her and took her hands and touched her cheeks and kissed her hands and looked her in the eye and um, kind of expressing his pleasure and love in meeting her after almost 11 months. Now, not necessarily Kalpana was ready, not necessarily, but it was apparent to Amrit to share his love and also for Shantini to capture that moment and relay it to me. Okay, that is about compassion. And the most important thing that she mentioned we know that the children have compassion. We know that they love unconditionally. The most important thing that came up in our conversation between Shantini and me is she said, the world thinks our children don't have compassion, but they do. And the same thing was repeated by Mallika and Gokul probably yesterday or day before yesterday. There is a neighbor of Gokul who is nonverbal and is profoundly mentally retarded, according to the definitions. And Gokul has been worried and wanting to meet this child. Though from across the balcony they are able to see one another. And he repeatedly asked his mother, can we go and meet him? Can we go to their house? பாவம் இல்ல, அவனுக்கு seizures வருது இல்ல. Now, none of us thought that a child could be aware that the other child gets seizures, or none of us could visualize that a child could feel such compassion towards the another child, a fellow human being. If Gokul and Amrit can show us this kind of compassion and this kind of understanding, this kind of love, so there is nothing less in this world. We are filled to the as much as love that we can take, the world has to offer. As much as love that we can give, the world can take. So it is us who are the barriers, you know, in the giving and the taking. And so I want to relate that to the communication.
There again, I think Nandini, we as facilitators, we should be in a position to catch what the child is trying to say, and
Right.
that involves us to be more aware. I think more aware, more alert. To
Yeah.
it could just be for a fraction of a second, but then we have to catch it and then tell the world that this is what the child is trying to say, because the child
Say.
is nonverbal. So that is
Right.
important, I feel, for
And
us.
that for that breathing, being mindful, being
Yes.
in the present
Present
moment,
moment.
dwelling within ourselves in the present moment gives us the opportunity to see the world in a bright, loving embrace
Yeah.
rather than missing it. You
Yeah.
know, what
Very
you
true.
spoke about, you're allowing it to flow. So when it flows, we need to be able to
Take
perceive
it.
it,
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever
take
it
it.
is, whether it's a sharing or whether it is just being contently sitting in one place, we just have to take that moment. That is
Correct,
so. And one more thing about compassion, when you said, I think there were a lot of incidents like that in school when one child was trying to help the other.
correct. That is incredible. No photographs possible, no witnesses even possible.
Exactly.
There are a lot of things that happens in the confines of the home, in the confines of the rooms, in the confines of the school environment, in the confines of the relationships that we present to the child.
Correct.
Even our relationships are confines, right? So unless we are open, we don't capture it, is
Correct. Very true.
something, yeah.
Very true. So,
So thank you, Aparna. So nice to speak to you. Okay. We'll continue again next week also when you come.
thank you.
Thank you.
Not able to hear. Off late, need to spend a lot of time with children, ma'am. One-on-one, Mari. So what I have observed is children not only using words. நம்ம கம்யூனிகேஷனால வார்த்தை தான் நினைச்சிட்டு இருக்கோம். அது ஒரு கெஸ்டரா இருக்கு. சம்டைம்ஸ் பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு பார்வையா இருக்கு, அது ஒரு டச்சா இருக்கு. So there are a lot of ways to communicate, it seems, ma'am. So I
Can
feel
you share any specific instance that you've seen with
I've
one
seen
child helping the other?
அது ஒரு எப்படி சொல்றது மேம், ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் சின்ன விஷயமா இருக்கலாம், பெருசு கூட இருக்கு. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் பாத்தீங்கன்னா, இப்போ எஸ்வின் வந்து டிஃபன் பாக்ஸ் திறக்க முடியலன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, டிஃபன் பாக்ஸ் திறக்க முடியலன்னா கிஷோர் வந்து அவனோட டிஃபன் பாக்ஸ் எடுத்துட்டு வந்து என்கிட்ட கொடுப்பான், திறந்து கொடுங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. அது மாதிரி ஒரு இன்சிடென்ட்.
வண்டர்ஃபுல் வண்டர்ஃபுல்.
ஸோ இன்னொரு விஷயம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா, இப்போ வந்து ஒரு சைல்டு வந்து ஒரு எப்படி சொல்றது மேம், இப்போ ஃபாரஸ்ட்ல எல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா, இப்போ ஒரு டைகர் வருதுன்னா மங்கி வந்து இது கொடுக்குமா, சிக்னல். சோ எல்லாரும் அலர்ட் ஆயிடுவாங்க. சோ அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு குரூப்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா இப்ப யாராவது வராங்க, ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் வந்து ஒரு புதுசா யாராவது வராங்கன்னா ஒரு சைல்டு வந்து எல்லாருக்கும் கம்யூனிகேட் பண்றாங்க. புதுசா வந்துட்டாங்க.
That's very interesting. That is very interesting observation. Yeah.
So இந்த மாதிரி கம்யூனிகேஷன் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா children are doing in many layers, ma'am.
Correct. No, not it's not
only words, not only they are doing actions, thoughts.
Correct.
Intention. Correct ah avan poran.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I can see this. Arun, when I first met him, was incredibly chatty. ரொம்ப chat பண்ணுவான். வந்து he was not just chatty. He would repeat everything he has heard. If he has heard his grandfather talking in the other room with somebody on the phone, he would remember every nuances of the conversation. One side, Tata peshinadu matram. So he would be able to recall and repeat every single thing. Okay. Now, pech is not about what is meaningful. For many of our children, speech is also about what they remember, auditory memory. So they remember something, they are able to say it. And even if there is a question, ஒரு கேள்வி கேட்டாலுமே அதுக்கு பதில் நம்ம சொல்றது அது ரெஜிஸ்டர் ஆகல children கிட்டக்க. They've registered the phrase that you have responded, but they have not understood the meaning of what you have said. Yes. So பேச்சுங்கிறது வந்து limitations இருக்கு நிறைய. But அந்த non-speaking communication mode are very powerful. So I want to also share briefly how I worked with Arun for the last many years. Whenever he would repeat a conversation he has heard, I would stop him and say, "Idu meaningful irukka Arun?" So he started thinking whether what he was saying had any meaning. So the phrase and the meaning was connected first. And then he saw whether it was meaningful to him. And then when he said it was no longer meaningful to him, then I continued to ask him, "Enakku idu useful ah nenikriya in the meaning, in the information?" So then he became so silent and so powerful communicator using words. It did not happen overnight. It happened over a decade, 10 years almost. But today, Arun is such a beautiful communicator. If you had come இன்னைக்கு காலம்பர first thing சுபா வரல, நான் வந்து அருண் தான் பாடணும் நினைச்சுண்டு அருண் சொல்றதுக்குள்ள he was ready to sing. So Brinda said, I had no idea that Shubha is not going to be there and you're going to ask Arun to sing. But Arun was ready with that. How Arun ready with that? It was not a verbal initiation. வாயால நீ பாடுப்பான்னு சொன்னேன். But it was not based on that. Arun was already ready because since Shubha was not there, he was going to sing and he sang. So வார்த்தைகள் limited. Non-speaking, non-language communication is always has a top priority in me because that's what the children have taught me. But situation கேப்ப இது இத்தனை நான் பேசுறேன், நானே வார்த்தைகள் வேண்டான்னு சொல்றேன். So it's a bit of a contradiction. Okay. Thank you.
More than the mode of communication, ma'am. யாருக்கு நம்ம எப்படி இருக்கோம்? The person whom he is communicating.
Correct.
That's more important.
How aware we are. Correct. Which is very
the way we are.
Nandini. That's how she's able to get because of how aware she is.
That is more important than the secondary the mode of communication. Correct. Correct ma'am? Aparna ma'am.
Very correct.
Okay.